Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Rules of Engagement. This is a tactical analysis show put on by MLG, hosted by yours truly, Axslav, where I go through pro games, community games, crazy games, etc. And just the goal is to entertain you and also maybe to help you guys back at home get a little bit better. So every day of the week we have a unique theme. So I'm going to go over a couple of those themes for you guys today. Mondays, we're going to have Talking Tactics. That's where we take a look at pro-level games and go over the tactics they used and how you can use those tactics back at home to improve your own game. Every Tuesday, we have Developing Fundamentals. That's going to be today. That's where we take a look at some of the basic concepts of the game and how some of those concepts can be really important and how some of them, while they seem obvious, are actually overlooked or not understood properly by every player. And if you're a beginning player, it's especially important to understand these basic fundamentals. Every Wednesday, we have Mechanics of the Bizarre. This is a day where we, again, look at professional level replays. But one thing we do a little bit differently on Wednesday is we take a look at replays where pros do kind of crazy or bizarre strategies and try to figure out why that strategy worked there, why they chose to use it, and why also is it not used all the time in professional level play. Every Thursday, it's going to be Community Critique. That's where I take a look at the replays you guys at home submit to me. If you want to send a replay, go to majorleaguegaming.com/replays and fill out the little form. It takes about 10-15 seconds. Send out a replay and we'll go over it on Thursday. Every Friday is going to be Self-Reflection. That's where I take a look at some of my own games and analyze my own play and see what went well, what went wrong for me, and of course how that can affect you guys back home when you're playing, some things to keep in mind and to try to help your guys' play. And all these shows are going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. At the end of every show, there's going to be a question and answer period. If you want me to answer your questions on air, tweet at me at Axslav, any question you want, and I will answer it. So without further ado, let's talk about today's topics on developing fundamentals. We're going to start off about home economics, basically how important it is to keep your own base running well. Then we're going to talk about foreign policy, the ways you can do, the things you can do to disrupt your opponents, basically home economics, and the things you can do to make sure that they can't mess around with your economy. Then we're going to follow up with a couple tips and tricks to help you guys get a little bit better. So let's jump into home economics. What I want to show you here is how important worker production actually is. So we're going to jump into this replay, and the difference here is that one player is going to be constantly building SCVs for a few minutes in the game, and the other player is going to be building an SCV and waiting just 2 to 3 seconds before they build their next SCV. So very little downtime, but I'm going to show you how even just a tiny bit of downtime can make a big difference if it's added up throughout the course of an entire game. So we're going to just fast forward through this replay a little bit. You can see the production tab. On the pink side, there should always be an SCV in production. On the blue side, there's just a second or two of downtime between each SCV production. But if we already look at the economic tab right here, we can see pink already has, actually let's pause it for a second. Pink already has 2 more workers, and that's leading to an average of 100 more minerals per minute. And over the course of several minutes, that can add up to quite a bit. So as we keep going, we can go back to production tab, see, at the blue one, there's like a second of downtime between each SCV cycle. Not too long, just a second. And now there's 2 command centers being built by each player. So you go through this game, we're going to actually take a look at some of the graphs that we're going to see at the end of this. So let's get into that real quick. And this is what we're going to tell with the resource collection rate. So the resource collection rate right here is 766 for the player who consistently made SCVs throughout the entire game, and only 635 minerals per minute for the player who only made 1 or 2 seconds of mistake between every SCV production. This is something that the vast majority of players do. It just missed 1 or 2 seconds of production. Doesn't seem like a big deal. If you think about it, 130 minerals per minute over a course of a 7-minute game, that player is already going to be down 900 minerals, right? And that's 9 zealots, that's 18 marines, that's a lot of units. So if you can just try to pair this little tiny thing in your game up a little bit better, you're going to have a massively stronger army. Another way to look at it is we can take a look at these resource collection graphs, and it's especially apparent as soon as it gets past a 1-base situation, because then there's more minerals that need to be saturated. So right here you can take a look at kind of the gap. And the gap between the lines, if you add up the area of that gap throughout the entire graph, that's going to add up to that 900 minerals I talked about earlier. So when you take a look at your games, you play a game, if you win or lose it, whatever happens, take a look at that resource collection graph. Take a look at the gap between the two lines, and you know, sometimes it'll bounce back and forth, but try to figure out which line overall had a bigger gap. And then you can tell, did you macro as well as your opponent, or did you fall behind? It's a very, very important basic concept of Starcraft 2. One thing that's extremely important is that a lot of people get into a game, and actually let's use the writing tool real quick here. And bring that back up. Okay, so one thing that's very important that a lot of people make the mistake on is that they'll play a game, and let's say they lost this game, okay? And then they lost it to a time attack. They're going to say, oh no, what happened is I made too many workers, right? And then I didn't have enough units when they attacked. But the thing to note is, let's say you're a player who had the blue line. If you made your economy better, you expanded faster, let's say you could have had a graph like this, right? Your graph came up like this more. You're going to notice that in the line I drew, you actually end with almost the same economy, so you didn't actually make more workers the game, but you made them at a faster rate. And then you have this area all in here. This area here is all extra money that you have, and that extra money is going to correspond to a lot more units. So now all of a sudden you're going to hold the same time attack, and it wasn't because you built less workers, it's because you built the workers faster and earlier, you expanded faster and earlier, and so by the time their attack hit you, the expansion has paid off. This is true with almost every single time attack. The way to deal with anything that's not like a super fast rush is to be as greedy as possible, and then right before the attack, all that money that you've collected from being greedy, you can pour that into units, pour that into defenses, spine cores, photon cannons, bunkers, what have you, and then you're going to come out defending that attack, not only just defending it, but also having a very strong economy to back you up as well. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions you can make. Is you lose the attack, think you didn't have enough units because you made too many workers. The reason why you did not have enough units is because you made too few workers, you didn't make workers fast enough, and therefore you didn't have enough units to actually deal with the attack when it came. So let's jump over to a couple general ways to improve on this, right? We now know how important this is to deal with, how critically important it is to basically have a good economy. And so there's a couple ways to improve this. And one of the most important ones is you need to have a plan. The first thing is it's very, very important to have a plan. Then you need to make sure that you maintain your focus, right? So you have your plan. You need to make sure your focus means that 100% of your mental energy needs to be on executing that plan, not just going into the game and playing the game and having fun or whatever. You want to be 100% focused on what your plan is, right? So you have your plan for improvement, and while you're playing, you're not just, having fun. You're saying, I'm going to execute this plan as well as I can. I'm 100% mentally engaged with what I'm doing. Then you have to repeat it a lot. You have to play a lot of games. That's the only way to get better. And then the last part is you have to so you have to give yourself some self-analysis. Record your worker counts at different points in the game. Like say, okay, I'm going to look at this replay at 5 minutes, how many workers did I have? At 10 minutes, how many workers did I have? And then you're going to write those two numbers down. Next game you play, did I do better or did I do worse? You could win the next game or lose the next game. That's not important. The important thing is to record the worker count and income and see if that's getting better. And then you can tell if you're improving this specific aspect, which is very important to StarCraft 2. So let's talk about a couple different basic plans, because that's kind of a vague concept. He says, have a plan. Well, my plan is to defeat my opponent. But if you're trying to improve, what we need to do is have a more specific plan for a short-term goal, not just, I'm going to get better. Your plan should be, okay, right now, I want to get better at micro. Or right now, I want to get better at building workers. And so the plans I'm going to tell you are all about how to improve your home economics, your worker production. There's three main ways to do that. One of the ways is going to be just practice first an AI, a very easy AI that won't attack you for about 14 minutes, and try to get as many workers as possible before the AI attacks you. You got 14 minutes to do it. You should be able to get pretty close to maxed out if you're at a pro level. If you're not, you're going to have a harder time working your way up there, so take your time, right? let's say first time in 14 minutes you get 100 workers. Well, then you have a little check mark. Then next time you try to improve, and that's where the focus is in. Because when you play versus the AI, the advantage of this strategy is that if it's a very easy AI, it won't really do anything to you. You don't have to worry about it. Or you can even play versus a non-opponent and just say keep continuing playing. And the idea of this is that 100% of what's going on is going to be dealing with worker production. Don't even build a barracks, don't even build a gateway, don't even build an assimilator or a refinery. Don't build anything but workers, command centers, and supply depots. And that way, your focus is naturally on the plan. It's very easy to keep your focus. Another potential plan is to basically, if you want to play a more real game but still improve in this, you can play the ladder, have fun. But one thing you can do is you can have a single build you do every single game. If you do the same build every single game, what's going to happen is you're going to get that build memorized so well that you're never going to have a build order mistake. And then the only other skill is whatever that build requires. So if you want to work on your worker production, you should do a 2-base time attack build. Whatever race you are, there's plenty of 2-base time attack builds. You could do, a mass blink stalker if you're Protoss. If you're Terran, you could do a marine tank push. You could do just a mass marine marauder medevac push. Whatever it is, pick a 2-base time attack build. So you get your 2 bases and you just build a bunch of units and you say, once I have, let's say 60 food of army, maybe 110 food total, I'm going to go attack my opponent. And what you do is you mark the time in the game when you're able to start moving out to attack them. And then what you do is you keep doing it and you keep trying to improve that mark. And if you do the same build and you do a timing build, all the other variables go out the window and the only variable left is the execution of the worker production and the unit production and the macro behind it. So it's a really great way to focus on that specific instance. Of course, the last way you say, you know what? I don't want to play versus the AI, I want to play versus a human opponent. But I don't want to do the same build every time. That's a little bit boring. So you can do the third type of plan you could do is where you do whatever build you want to do, have fun, but only worry about your worker production in your games. So let's say your build is a carrier rush or battlecruiser rush or whatever have you, 5-base macro. Don't worry about what's happening in the game except for worker production. What this means is you're going to lose a lot of games. Or maybe you'll even win a game accidentally that you didn't deserve to win. But the most important thing is to basically make sure not to be results oriented when you do your builds. Because your builds are going to be a little bit funky, you're going to be making build order mistakes, you're going to be making strategical mistakes. But you want to keep your focus on your actual plan, which is to maximize worker production, which means you have to not care about wins or losses. It's kind of like when you play poker, you could play a great hand, but you still might lose anyway. But the goal isn't to win that immediate hand, the goal is to play the most basically efficient way possible to improve. In Starcraft terms, in poker it's a little different, it's not expected value, but you want to do your most efficient way to improve your skill set of worker production. So let's go back to those 4 basic steps of the plan. First, come up with a plan. There's 3 good ones for maximizing worker production in that skill set. Then you want to focus on that plan. Make sure 100% of your energy is devoted towards executing the plan. You don't want to be just rote playing. Don't be kind of mindlessly just moving guys around. You have to be engaged with the game. 3, you have to repeat this plan a lot. And then 4, you have to keep checking and seeing if you're improving or not. If you're not, maybe you're doing steps 1, 2, or 3 wrong. If you are, that's a good job. And if you notice your improvement slowing, that could be because you're hitting a bottleneck where now you should work on a different skill. So the last thing I want to give you guys is a really quick tip. It's going to be if you're playing an actual game versus opponent and you want to keep working on your worker production throughout the game very well, whenever you queue up a unit, just build 2 workers. If it's a Zealot, a Marauder, a Marine, a Roach, a Hydrodus. Oh, actually for Zerg it's a little different. So this is more for Terran or Protoss players there. Whenever you build, you warp in around the Zealots. You produce a line of Marauders from barracks. Just queue up 2 workers per Nexus or Command Center, and the production times will line up almost perfectly. If you do that every time you do a cycle, you link the production cycles together in your mind. It's 1 task instead of 2. It's much, much, much more efficient. So thank you guys for staying and learning with me about how to improve your worker production. We're going to take a quick break, and we're getting on to how to harass your opponent and interfere with their economy.